is just tell me answers here.
112.
112.
215.
Hey, you're going faster than I can write.
615. 18. 38.
Okay, stop. 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 Someone tell Alan what we just did to get our answers. Chloe.
You multiply the top two numbers of, you first multiply the denominators and then you...
And the numerators. Good. Okay, thanks for using that vocabulary. Now, on these, I've got a choice. I can simplify before I multiply, or I can simplify after I multiply. Okay? Let's do this one after. So 6/12.
1/2.
What are the questions I ask myself?
Can you
Is 6 half of 12? So you write 1/2. All right, take a look at the next one. Let's simplify this one ahead of time. So I know 2 and 6 are going to share a factor. What's the greatest common factor for 2 and 6?
Greatest common factor for 2 and 6.
It's 2. It's going to be the smaller of the two. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Write this down. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my answer is 5/9. Now, did you get, what did you get? 10/18?
Yeah.
And if I divide both of those by 2, right,
5/9.
I'm going to get 5/9. So there's 2 different ways to get the same answer. All right? Take a look at this one. 3 and 6. Greatest common factor of 3 and 6 is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is
2.
and your answer is
5.
5/8. You would have got 15/24. Divide both of those by 3. You'll probably get 5/8, won't you? Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. This is volume, but I want to remind you that we're doing it a little differently. I have a reason for this. So underneath this, I want you to write equals, equals. I think that's all you need. So go ahead and count your length. What is it?
5.
And go ahead and count your width and your height. 4. Now I want you to put parentheses around those two. So 5 times 2 is 10 units squared times, what do I have left here? 4 units. Write it like that, please. I have a reason for having you do that. Because this is actually the base times the height. Remember the base is squared? You remember that from the old days? It's like 2 weeks ago. 10 times 4 is 40 units cubed. Okay? So underneath each of these, you're going to need 2 equal signs. Hopefully you have more room than I do. Okay, so go ahead and solve the next 2 exactly the same. Is that what you got? My 3's kind of sticking up there, isn't it? I think I'll move it. Okay, can you put the parentheses anywhere you want?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. So if I want to, I can put my parentheses here. And so then I would write 7 units times what? 6 units squared. And 6 times 7 is 42 units cubed, or cubic units. Okay, let's take a look at this application problem. Now, the warm-up activities are short because we're going to spend a lot of time on the problem set today. The lesson is on the problem set. So go ahead and turn it over. Okay, Margot is designing a label. The dimensions of the label are 3.5 inches by 1 1/4 inches. What is the area of the label? What do I do when I figure area? Multiply. Okay, what do I multiply? Length times width, okay? It says use the RDW process to solve this. So I'm going to draw a label. And I'm going to put the length as 3.5 and the width as 1 1/4. And these are inches, aren't they? Okay, and to solve this problem, I'll multiply the length times the width, right? So 3.5 times 1 1/4 equals. And we've been solving these on an area model. That's what we've been doing. So hopefully, underneath here, you have room to make yourself an area model. So go ahead and make another rectangle. I'm making mine a little larger so that I can show my fractions on there, okay? So I always start with a fraction. So I have to show a half here, and I have to show a fourth at the bottom. And then I'll call this 1/2, and this 3. What do I write on the side?
1 1/4.
Good. So basically, I'm just separating them, aren't I? Now I'm going to multiply. So 1 times 3, 3 inches squared, because I'm doing the area of this little rectangle. And then 1 times 1/2, one copy of 1/2 is 1/2, isn't it? 1/4 times 3, 3/4. 3 copies of 1/4 is 3/4. And 1/4 times 1/2. 1/8 inches squared. Okay? So now we've been adding these all up, haven't we? And we're going to do some of that on the lesson today. So how about if I show you the strategy that's coming next? Would you like to see it? It's a lot simpler than adding up these 4 numbers. Okay, so here's what we do. There was a warm-up activity a while back where I circled those 2 numbers and I said multiply those, then add your numerator. And that gives me a fraction instead of a mixed number. Where should your eyes be? Where should your thinking be? So 3 times 2, boys and girls,
6
plus 1.
7.
So that gives me a numerator of 7, and I keep my denominator. So I'm changing that mixed number to an improper fraction. And same thing here. 1 times 4
4
plus 1 more.
5
So it's going to be 5/4. Now I simply multiply. 7 times 5 and 2 times 4. Okay. So now I've got an improper fraction that I need to switch back to a mixed number. The easiest way to do it is long division. So write 35 divided by 8. Now you can skip count by 8s. You can skip count by 8s with me. 8, 16,
24
32, 40. 40 is too big. 32. So 8 times 4 equals 32. 5 minus 2 is... Now I have a mixed number for my answer. Do you remember how I said you can take the... What did I do wrong? So I can just take the remainder and put it on top of the divisor, right? Okay, Cheney, what's my answer then?
4
4 3/8. And that's inches squared. Okay? So, instead of adding 3 plus 1/2 plus 3/4 plus 1/8, I can change them to fractions and it's a lot simpler. Okay? Today's lesson, though, is going to review how to use the area model, and we're also going to measure with a ruler. So what I want you to do now, the best way to solve this type of problem is what we just practiced on the application problem, okay? But we're going to go ahead and do what the directions say. We're going to use the area model to find the area. So the very first length, Chloe, what is it?
The length is 2.
This is 2 inches, so you will write 2 inches. And you're going to have to stay with me. So put the rulers down and then pick it back up and then put it down and pick it back up. Okay, so pulling a stick on the width. You ready yet? Okay, look up here. Everybody look before you write it. You agree it's 2.5? I think we just practiced that. Okay, so you're going to draw a line to show 1/2. And then you've got 2. Okay, that's what it means by solve using the area model. Right, you're ready to help me multiply here. What's 2 times 2?
4.
So 4 inches squared is the area of this rectangle. Actually, it's a square. That part is, isn't it? And then 1/2 times 2, cadence. What's 1/2 times 2? 2 halves, which is the same thing as, right. So last week, it's been a whole week, boys and girls, we wrote 2 halves equals 1, didn't we? Okay. So can I add those in my head to figure out the area?
Yes.
I'm going to put area equals right here because I don't need the room. So what is 4 plus 1? 5. So my area is 5 inches squared, or 5 square inches, okay? That's how we'll be solving them. I don't think they're all going to be quite that easy. All right, so go ahead and start measuring B. It kind of looks like a square, doesn't it? Okay. Jair, what did you get? 1 3/4. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Watch how I'm going to write it. Now, I know that this is not exactly what 3/4 needs to be, but I don't care. I'm just giving myself enough room to write.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, measure the other side, kids, and tell me if it's a square. Okay, how do you know it's a square? Okay, so the measurements are the same. So you're going to write, so you're done with your ruler, put your ruler down, label that. Emily, help me multiply here. What's 1 times 1? 1 square inch, good. And then we have 1 times 3/4. 1 copy of 3/4 is 3/4. And then the next person is George B. What's 3/4 times 1? Oh, good. That's simple, isn't it? Are you labeling it square inches? Okay. And George B, 3/4 times 3/4. 9/16. Okay, because 4 times 4 is 16, right? So now what I need to do is add all these up. So write 1 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. And did you notice that I'm not putting my inches in there?
Yeah.
It's just going to make it too confusing. I'll put my inches on the final answer. And I don't know how many equal signs I need because I can do some of this in my head. So I've got, what can I add ahead of time? 3 plus 3/4. Anybody remember what it is? It's 9/16. No. It's 6/4. which is, anybody know what it is? 1 and 1/2. So this would be 1 plus 1 and 1/2. What is it?
2 and a half.
So 2 and 1/2. So I'm going to write 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus. Because my next step is what, boys and girls? Find a common denominator. So what would my common denominator be for 1/2 and 9/16? I'm going to pull a stick. Miguel. I could use 32, but that's pretty big. Can I use one of those numbers?
16.
Okay, so who said 16?
Miguel.
Oh.
Miguel said 16.
Miguel said 16. So when you can use the larger one, just use it. It'll make your life simpler. So 2 times what, Miguel, equals 16?
8.
Good. So the answer I'm getting
17.
is 17/16. I've got to change that to a mixed number. Shh. I'm going to pull a stick. Josue. So this is going to be 2 plus 16/16 plus 1/16. And the answer is, I'm going to write it up here. 2 plus 1 plus 1/16 inches squared. So area equals. I'm going to write that. Okay, how you doing? Okay? I think that might be the most, I don't know if it's the most difficult. Okay, start measuring rectangle C. So Abdiel, what'd you get for the length?
2 and 1, right? Wait. 2 and 2/4.
You got it. So in order to write that, I put 3/4 out to the side. Vaughn, what'd you get for the width?
2.
2. Oh, that's going to make life simpler. Okay. So one less fraction to deal with, correct? Okay, so Vaughn, you go ahead and help me out here. 2 times 2.
4. Inches squared.
Good. And 2 times 3/4. Now think of that as 2 copies of 3/4.
9/16.
No. Now I'm going to write it down so you can see it, but it looks like this. Do I change my denominator? No.
Oh.
So 2 times 3, 6/4. Good. So now to get my answer, I'm going to add 4 plus 6/4. Well, I think I can go ahead and change it, can't I? So what's 6/4?
1 and a half. 1 and a half. 1 and 2.
1 and 2/4. Did Lexi do a little bit of that? Was that who said 1 1/2?
I know.
Okay. So 1 and 2/4. So can I change 2/4 to a half?
Yes.
So 4 plus 1 1/2 would be what? 5 1/2 inches squared. Well, I really like those without fractions on one side, don't you? Yeah. So on rectangle D, give me a length, Gavin.
2.
What?
2.
2? 2 even?
No, 2 and 1/4. 2 and 1/4.
2 and 1/4. Okay. So I'm going to leave room for 1/4. Okay. the side or the width. Gracie, what'd you get for the side?
I have no idea yet.
Okay, just let me know when you get it.
2.5?
You guys agree? 2.5?
No.
Look at it again. See, that's where we messed up in block 3, so I want to make sure we get it right. Is it less than a half, Gracie?
No.
What's that first tick mark that we talked about? That's not 2.
Yeah.
That's 1.
No. That's 2.
This is 2?
Yeah.
So is this one 3?
Yeah.
No.
Yes. 3 and 1 4.
Okay.
I was measuring it wrong. I did the bottom again.
Okay, I thought so. So let's take a look at this. 2 times 3. 6 square inches.
6 inches. 2.
3 copies of 1/4.
3.
3/4.
Inches.
1/4 times 2, or 2 copies of 1/4. 2/4. I'm going to leave it 2/4.
Ow. Because you're going to need the circle.
Because there's a 4 over here, so maybe I can add them together, right?
Yeah.
And then 1/4 times 1/4.
116.
Okay, so highlighting the numbers, I'm going to add together. Let's see if we can add any of these ahead of time before we write the problem down.
We can have 3/4 and 3/4, 5/4.
So I can add 6 plus 5/4 plus 1/16. Then I'm going to put equals, equals, equals. And I'm going to do 6 plus all the way down. Okay, so common denominator for 4 and 16, Samaja. Can we use one of those numbers already?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, because 4 goes into 16, right?
Yeah.
4 times what, Samaja? Is 16.
6? No.
4. So 5 times 4 is,
20.
okay. So here's what I have. I have 6 plus 21/16. That's going to be 6 plus, and then I've got a mixed number, don't I?
This is just
Okay.
the one I just did.
McKenna, how do I change 21/16 to a mixed number?
21.
Can I take out 16/16? Okay. How many are left over? 16 plus something equals 21.
5.
Okay. So the answer is 6 plus 1 whole,
7.
7 and 5
16.
inches squared. Good job. I'm going to keep pulling sticks. So I've got, Lexi, what is the length of rectangle E?
The top length.
Yes.
The length is 3/4.
You're right. And the width, Emiliano? 2.5. 2 halves is 1, right? But 2.5 is what this is measuring to be. Okay, so Emiliano, 2 times 3/4. We've had that a lot, haven't we? I'm going to change it to a mixed number just in case I need it. Is that what it is as a mixed number?
Yes.
1 2/4 equals 1 1/2. Okay? And then 1/2 times 3/4.
3/8.
3/8. So what am I adding?
1 1/2
1 1/2
plus 3/8.
plus 3/8. I'm going to do equals, equals, equals. This is how we solve it?
Yep.
Cheney, common denominator for 2 and 8.
16.
You could.
Oh, 8.
8. 16's not wrong. You'll just have to
Yeah, I know.
simplify. Okay? So 2 times what equals 8?
4.
4. So your answer?
Is 1 and 7.
Inches squared. Okay? All right, so let's measure F. Beverly, tell me what the length is that's going across the top.
It's going to be 3 and 3/4.
3 3/4? Okay. And George A., tell me what the width is.
4 1/2.
1/2. Okay, I've got to erase this. So to figure this out, let's start with the area model. George, you want to help us? George A? Okay. So 1/2 times 3. 3 halves. Change that to a mixed number, George. 1 1/2. So we'll write it both ways and then we'll decide which one works best. Okay? And then 1/2 times 3/4, George. 3/8. This looks very familiar. Is that the problem I just did?
Maybe it's side.
1 1/2 plus 3/8. 1 1/2 plus 3/8. I already know the answer.
Just write it down.
What is it?
1 and 7/8.
1 and 7/8. Area equals 1 and 7/8 inches squared. That was easy. Now, the only reason why we can figure that out is because we wrote it both ways. On Zern, they just take the fraction for some reason. Okay, let's do the bottom part. Let's just solve these. So I want you to put 3 equal signs right next to each of them. And let's cross off that area model part. Okay? And let's solve these numerically. So that means I will change mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay? I think I know what the answer to the first one is. Do you think you know what it is?
1 1/2. 2
1 1/2 feet squared. Let's see if we're right. Okay. One copy of 1 1/2. So Emiliano, what's 1 times 2 plus 1?
1 times 1.
Plus 1.
Oh,
Look at the board. 1 times 2,
well, 2,
add 1 more,
3.
so it's 3 halves. Right? Okay, so one copy of 3 halves is 3 halves, which equals
1 1/2.
1 1/2. Did we do it right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't think the next one's going to be that easy. B. Josue, help me with my improper fractions. So 1 times 2 plus 1. Oh, we just had that. Dara, what's 3 halves times 3 halves? 9 fourths. Okay, the easiest way to figure out 9 fourths is to do 9 divided by 4. Everyone write it down unless you can do that in your head. 4 times 2 equals 8, right? So my answer, yards square. Okay, the next one. Do you like this way better than the area model? So do I. You're welcome for letting you do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so help me out. We've got to change these 2 mixed numbers to improper fractions. George A., do the first one for me. 2.5. So 2 times 2 plus 1. Does my denominator change? No. Cheney, change the next one, 1 3/16 to a fraction.
19.
19 what?
16.
Okay. So now you simply multiply 5 times 19 and 2 times 16, and you're going to get a fraction. So go ahead and multiply those. If you have to write it down, then write it down. For me, what'd you get? 5 times 19? 95? Okay, so let me ask you a question. Could I do 5 times something else that would be easier and I could do it in my head? What is it?
Can we just use a 16?
I could just use a what instead of a 19?
1, 10, and 1.
I could use a 10 and a 9, but there's an easier one.
20.
A 20. I could use a 20. I could do 5 times 20 and then subtract 5. Is that 95?
No.
Yeah, it is. 2 times 16, class, what is it?
32.
32. Now do your long division. 95 divided by 32. Now I know 30, 60, 90 would go in, but that's 32. Is there going to be room for 3?
Yes. No.
No, because that would be what? 90, 96. So you can only fit 2 in there. So 32 times 2.
64.
Now subtract. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yep. 2 and 31/32. Okay, that's where we're going to stop today.